to try and estimate how many little salmon were feeding at the surface of the lake, which they do at night when the plankton migrate to the surface. The little salmon follow them up. There were many, many nights when within 10 or 15 minutes of when we started out on the lake, the wind would come up through the Blue and Gray Pass. And in 10 to 15 minutes, it can go from flat calm to 7 or 8 foot waves easily, to the point where we were blown off the lake. Sometimes we spent 2 or 3 days anchored up behind an island, Big Island or Shoulder Blade Island, or one of the islands off Naknek, trying to wait out the storm. It's a big, serious body of water that people don't go on lightly. If you ask when you go to the other villages how many people have lost family members on it, you might get quite a big show of hands. We don't need an Edmund Fitzgerald sitting on the bottom of it, but it's in that relative category of bodies of water. It's a very serious endeavor to be on that lake. The lake at times will get as much as 60 inches of ice on it in the winter, and I've seen it not open until the middle of June. When I was stationed at Lower Tulare Creek, people wanted to come down here in the bay and fish kings in the Nushagak. They needed to get there in late May and early June, would call me up and ask me how thick the ice was out in front of me. And I would go out and chop through it and tell them so they could estimate when they could bring their fishing boats down the lake to Igiagi to try and get through the flats and come down here to fish. It was the 16th of June one year when the ice went out enough that they could do that. And when the ice begins to go out, the east winds that come through the Naknek Notch push the ice over to the southwest corner of the lake and build up humongous big piles of ice there. So this western terminal that's proposed for Tulare, Upper Tulare Creek area, had better be located way back from the shore. There better not be any docks or things out there, or that ice will be a very serious impediment to them. Again, why I would suggest that if they do run something across the lake, they take it to Iliamna, which is for the most part out of the path of that drifting ice. And these are chunks of ice that are bigger than football fields at times. Anyway, thank you for taking my testimony, and I will be back.
Thank you.
Number 7.
First of all, my name is Marilyn, M-A-R-I-L-Y, then middle initial A, last name Hansen, H-A-N-S-E-N. I am a lifelong resident of Bristol Bay, currently a member of Naknek Native Village, where you are right now. Our entire family are subsistence users of salmon, caribou, moose, berries, etc. Please consider my request to stop all of the mine development. Thank you for my consideration.
Number 8.
Thank you. My name is Paul Hansen, C-A-U-L, E-K-N-O-C-S. Thank you for allowing me to come. This 3,000 plus page document draft flaws standing out are ignoring the downstream effects, mining, wastewater impact, focusing only within the actual project footprint. The enormous risks to the entire watershed through unsafe mine water discharge, leaking heavy metals, and tailing dam failures, wastewater. Any credible environmental review would address those risks. I urge all responsible decision makers not allowing a commit to the Pebble Partnership. This project is right in the middle of Bristol Bay salmon habitat. Thank you for this time allowing me on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Number 9.
Oh, my name is Russell Nelson, and Paul's my dad's first cousin. So it's just, you know, a lot of people in Bristol Bay are related, and my dad passed away a couple of weeks ago, but he had a very good life, real good. Taught all of his kids how to hunt fish, clean moose, clean fish. In fact, I grew up on the back of the dad's boat, the Johnny Lee. Right, it was a 32-foot Bryant kilometer out of Bristol Bay, and you know, our families go back generations here. Anyway, I'm also on the board of directors of the Bristol Bay Native Corporation, and you know, welcome to the sockeye salmon capital of the world. And I believe there's more wild sockeye salmon processed up here in Naknek than there is any place else in the world. It's the Nushagak River, where the Kuftuli flows down, that they want to build a mine on and rip up some of the salmon spawning beds. 25% of those kings spawn up in that area that you would de-water and rip up. And you know, the Nushagak River is the last major king salmon river in the world. And you know, everybody else seems to be having problems. The Gak will get 100,000 kings going up it every year, and that's our first subsistence food that we get in the spring. And obviously the ducks and the geese, but the first fish that come in are the kings, and they're really important. They're really oily, and everybody puts them up. There's 100 different ways to put them up, you know, strips and just cooking them up. We love our king salmon heads. We put up a lot of king salmon heads every year. So that's, you know, the area that we're talking about up there, we just can't seem to justify sacrificing 25% of our kings just by ripping up the land to build this mine site. We need a no action alternative. I didn't see a no action alternative at all, and I've seen it on other types of projects. I mean, if you're going to destroy it even on a small mine site, you need to have a no action alternative. And then when they're advertising such a huge resource to their investors, and then they're saying they're going to build a small mine site, are they going to just keep asking for extensions and fool us and getting into, you know, getting the camel's nose under the tent? With over 400,000 pages of documents to go through in your current project library, 90 days is way too short. You know, we can just barely touch the surface. The testimony time here is only going to touch the surface of the concerns of the people. And if we had more time, we could research it more and actually come up with a lot more concerns. And you know, so if you'd extend this to 270 days, it would be a lot better. Please add more villages to your list. I fly around. I flew here in my little airplane, and it's pretty windy out there. If you've noticed, I was talking a 50-knot crosswind coming over here, and then landing. I was really glad the wind was up and down the runway because it's pretty dangerous. We have little small airplanes. We can't jump on snow machines right now. You can see there's no snow to run on. The rivers still have ice in them. For people to get from a village to a place like this is pretty much impossible unless they, you know, they can jump on an airplane and have the money to do it. And that, or if you guys go to the villages, because there's fewer of you traveling there. It's way cheaper than all the village people traveling in, you know, to a hot location. Lots of us commented on the draft EIS, you know, when the EPA was out here doing it, and it seems like a lot of the things were never answered in so, you know, what I can see so far. We can't afford another Mount Poly dam failure. Our fish here are way too important. And going back again to the size of it, you know, I don't understand how you could come up with a draft EIS that doesn't take in the whole ore body, because you know those guys, once they get in here and start digging, they're not going to want to quit. The richer ore is the eastern end compared to the western end. It's also higher in sulfides, and it's the pyrites, the real boogeyman in this whole mine. I mean, even when you leave the pit lake that's in the plan, as they're taking it all out when it's raining and when they get to the end of it and as it starts filling up, a lot of that sulfides, you know, as bad as they are, with such a high percentage of the pyrite, will start oxidizing and releasing the sulfur. And years ago, I learned about it, and I went to the first meeting when Bruce Jenkins came to Dillingham, and we met there at the, above the fire station, and he said, you know, you guys, that all the environmentalists are gonna come here, and they're gonna get you on their bandwagon, you know, to be against this mine, but, you know, do yourself a favor, get yourself educated, and then you'll see we're gonna do this mine right. Well, when we were going home, my wife told me that he was right. I didn't think he was right. She said, yes, he is. You need to get educated. So I went and signed up at the college. I had been taking college classes, but I did, and I got my AA degree, and then I moved on and got my bachelor's degree. It took me about 7 or 8 years working full-time, raising a family. But I did. I went and got myself educated, and I looked at the minerals a lot. I really tried to take the classes that told me about this mine site, and all it did was scare me worse. Just the type of the low-grade porphyry mine that it is. So I did get myself educated, and then a couple of years later, when we were down listening to a talk at Yale University with one of I think it was the president of the board or Northern Dynasty or the Pebble Project. He had the gall to call us, the people in Bristol Bay. He said that were against the mine were ignorant, and I thought, man, I went through a lot of college just to be called ignorant. You know, it's not fair. And anyway, I think you need more seismic analysis. You know, your draft EIS contains only about 6% of the studies that were referred to in the watershed assessment that EPA did. You know, just go on, and it's, you know, we just don't have enough time here to go through all of the different problems. One thing I wanted to highlight was that, you know, you guys are saying that for back during the 404C process, they said they were going to use 19 miles of streams. 5 of the miles were salmon spawning streams, and they were going to disturb 1,100 acres of wetlands. But on your new draft DIS, it jumps that thing up to 81.1 miles of streams, 8.87 miles of salmon spawning streams, and 3,560 acres of land. And what really gets me too is this 8.87 miles of salmon spawning streams. I saw something that the Pebble Partnership put out that said that it's only like such a fraction of a percent of all the salmon of Bristol Bay that spawn up there. What they don't tell you is it's 25% of our king salmon spawning beds. And we really can't afford to give up 25% of our king salmon spawning beds just to dig it up. If they're going to build that mine, they've got to figure out a way to stay out of all the salmon spawning streams and not de-water it, because even if you de-water it, it's just like ripping up the stream. If there's no water, the fish aren't going to live in it. So anyway. I would ask, please, that we need more time to study the draft DIS. Please give us 270 days. We need a no mine alternative. We need a more realistic mine size study, and we need more protections for fish and wildlife that we depend on. And one thing I didn't mention was I do have part ownership of an area allotment that our family's used for subsistence for years on the Nishigat River itself. And I saw a thing when there was a small failure on how far down it would affect, but for some reason it stopped just before you got to Stuyahawk. But we know that it's not going to stop at Stuyahawk. You just can't have a spill and stop at Stuyahawk. It's coming downriver, and I'm, I'd say about 20-25 miles downstream of Stuyahawk, and my cabin's right up on top of the bank of the river. In fact, it's probably less than 10 feet from the edge of the bank, and if something were to happen and we were in the cabin, and what would happen to us would we all be endangered? We need to find a higher ground for our cabins. But having some studies that would tell us that would really help. So thank you very much. Thanks for coming to Bristol Bay. Joni Lee, J-A-N-I-L-E-E. 80th and G number was 12377.
Mr. Nelson, can I have your comments? You wrote your comments down? I'll be happy to try.
Number 10.
Wilson Jr., Georgewilson, Jr. I live here in Naknek, but I grew up in Yagi, and I know very well where the mine site is at there at the foothills there. I grew up hunting up in that area, and I've taken moose, caribou, wolves, wolverine, many critters. And I've been commercial fishing since 1980, and my family's been out here in this region since the beginning of time, and they've all partaken in the salmon. Every region of this whole world got special things to it, and Bristol Bay, it's salmon. We're the last and the largest lift in the world. We weren't the only one, we're just the last one. And it was resource development of some kind that impacted all the waters of this place, that planet they call Earth. And I cannot imagine allowing this type of a development to impact the future of this region. You know, we just came off the largest run on record this last season, and I think it's great. But to look down the future, if this mine was to go on, it would put those fish in jeopardy, the fishermen, the local subsistence users. I just couldn't imagine allowing that to happen. I feel like this land was gifted to us from our ancestors, and me right now and my fellows that do not support this, you know, it's our job to protect it for the future generations. I'm a father. I could not imagine my kids not enjoying the same opportunities I had out here. With that, I hope you guys take this very seriously, because it will impact everyone out here. Thank you.
Number 11.
My name is Joshua Bain. I came here with my auntie Jessica Trenikoff. How to spell my last name is B-A-E-H-M. I'm testifying for myself and the people of Igiak. We traveled to Naknek today to testify because the majority of Southwest Alaska does not have the opportunity to testify at a public hearing in each of our communities. My community has concerns about the impacts that the Pebble mine would have on our lands, waters, wildlife, and people, now and for generations to come. Some of the concerns that our village members and tribal elders have about the wildlife, what will happen to our caribou, what we have already begun to see migration patterns change, and we are worried what development at the mine site will do to caribou that migrate all the way from north of Lake Iliamna all the way down to the tip of Alaska Peninsula. Additionally, how will it affect other animals like porcupine? These animals are a vital source of food and culture for our people, and we do not see how they may be affected in the draft environmental impact statement. Another concern we have are the short-term jobs that Pebble claims they will provide for the people of our region. We do not need jobs that will come and go. We need jobs that stay. Commercial fishing is a big and sustainable industry for Southwest Alaska, and we know, according to the EPA, that fishery could be negatively impacted if Pebble were to be built. It is important to consider how important our fishing jobs are, and they will remain in our region if we do not jeopardize them for unsustainable development. Fishing and the subsistence way of life has supported our people for generations and will continue to allow our people to survive. Will support our children and grandchildren and into the future, so as long as we protect it. Our people are also confused by the lack of information in the draft EIS. Do you have a plan in place if a major failure or spill happens? How will our communities, our people, our livelihoods be impacted? How long will it take for our lands to return to normal after the massive project is built? How much money will it cost for the company to clean up after the project is finished? There is not any evidence in the draft environmental impact statement of a major tailings failure or of the impact that will have on our waters. This is highly concerning. We also hope that the Army Corps will consider holding hearings in all communities of Southwest Alaska, not just a few selected. That way, the voices of my community members can also be heard. Thank you, guys.